He had his gun, so he just swung it open.
I start to notice that, the atmosphere feels a little bit weird.
First thing he seen was this 6.5 foot tall, broad shoulder, dark hair. That freaked him out.
We hadn't talked to her about life and death and what any of that means. She's 3 years old,
So we turned around. Suddenly there's a whole tree falling across the road.
And she was describing to us that, there was a deceased person that she could see visually.
You're listening to Cryptid Clues, where we tackle the ever-expanding history and mystery of monsters and supernatural madness every Monday. You can find us at CryptidClues.ca for more information, or even check out exclusive content and support us at patreon.com/CryptidClues. In the dim-lit Christmas morn, so early and bright, little Timmy pitter-pattered, a sudden delight. In bed, Jane and John stirred, almost spilling late-night drink. Little Timmy with glee didn't miss a wink. Past the stairs, through the window's soft glow, a village and farmland beneath the snow's gentle throw. Timmy leapt,
Geronimo!
with nowhere to stall, to the tree grand and bright, in the dark living room hall. No creepiness there, no shivers, no fear, just the warm fireplace casting shadows, my dear.
Christmas is here!
Timmy shouted with glee, his parents still sluggish. A consequence, you see. Last night's revelry, a bit too much cheer. They stirred in their slumber, the effects quite clear. For last night they drunk far too much beer. Gifts wrapped with bows, oh so festive and bright. Yet one box, a mystery, rustled in the soft light. Holes in the top, strange whimpers it made. Timmy approached cautiously, a tad bit afraid. Timmy pondered with a curious grin.
Whiskers, perhaps? A cat or a kin? Not another goat like Becky before. Ugh, last year's gift left me quite sore. I asked for a boat, and they got me a goat. A male named Becky? Ugh, what a remote. This year, a dog was my wish anew. Could it be true? Or is it a clue?
Hot chocolate in hand, Timmy's mom drew near, dragging his dad right along by the ear.
We're awake. Go nuts,
She said, voice groggy and slow.
Oh, this gives quite the topic. We're sure you'll know.
She muttered low. Outside the frosty window, a scene so bizarre, as something peeked in, feeling lost from afar. Through the Christmas season, this town lay still. In the dead of night, farmers woke to a chill. Shuffling feet in the snow, occasional and slow. Lost cows or horses, suspects, who would know? A giant appeared in this family morn. A hairy man standing, a thorn gently torn. Down from the mountains, through windy trees, past rose bushes frozen with blizzard-chilled knees. Every year the valley lit with bright lights, people shouting and making quite the frights. Sleeping was not an option. This man had a plan to conquer the town and feed his own clan. In caves beyond the farmland and barns, his kind spun tales of silly human yarns. Hairless apes in the valley below, stocked with food, their moods all aglow. Up to him it seemed, to bring food renown, and to do it with manners, not making them frown. Waiting for the moment, peeking with care, behind him he checked, who else to ensnare? Only a goat watching from a distance away, in the pasture beyond the frozen haze. "Stay where you are, Mr. Goat," thought the giant. "Your eye shimmers give me the shivers quite pliant." Back inside, Timmy asked with delight,
Can I open the big gift? It's a puppy, right?
No.
Mommy said, a tad bit grumpy.
Start with your stocking as usual, buddy.
Outside in the frost, The giant observed with dismay as Timmy tossed aside snacks and chocolate in a careless display. "Oh, bother, oh my, what's wrong with this society?" he grunted. "Such a waste! Food on the floor, ugh, anxiety." His breath on the window, the frost began to melt, a hairy giant pondering the cards he was dealt. Inside, Timmy's father, feeling quite strange, uneasy and queasy, peculiar change. Last night's beer, a regret in his gut. He turned to clear his colon, no ifs, ands, or but. Terry's chocolate orange with Molson combined, a mix in his stomach, not so kind.
All right, Mum, I'm done.
Timmy spun around.
Now, can I open the puppy box I found?
Hold on, Timmy.
Said Jane, her forehead in knots.
Wait until your dad is done in the bathroom.
She thought.
Aw, man. Aw, gosh. Ah, jeez.
Timmy threw a fit until he couldn't wheeze. He spun in a twit in the pit of his stomach. A feeling of luck. As he stopped and looked through the window, his heart struck.
Mom, is that Bigfoot?
Timmy raised a finger. Through the frosty window, the creature did linger. He had been noticed, he had been found. "What a clever child," Bigfoot said with a frown. "But now my moment of glories abound." A shatter of glass, a cold gust from the pass. Out of the fireplace, ashes spewed, oh alas. A Christmas scene like no other. Timmy, grinning wide, but scared was his mother. The bathroom door swung open. John rushed out, amazed. The window and tree broken, the blizzard now unfazed. Ornaments clattered, the star on the tree flickered. What beast had entered? The scene now bewildered. Bigfoot roared, a sound both mighty and scary. Jane fainted, falling with a thud. Oh, how weary. Timmy jumped and clapped, joy beyond puppy bliss.
"Step back, son. It's about to get bloody."
His dad warned him this. Nearby, Timmy's father grabbed a gun in a hurry. From the front door, a rifle shouting,
"Jane, don't worry."
He raised the gun, aiming through the sight. A snarl, teeth, drool, frothing with delight. With a bang, he missed. Fireplace took the hit. A buck's head fell. Time not to waste. Bigfoot in haste rushed forward, through John, maybe to make him haste? Bricks crumbled and fell, covering the scene. Bigfoot victorious, or so it would seem. Jane awoke, saw the rifle, and Timmy so scared. This wasn't expected, an outcome not dared. Assuredly not what Timmy thought it would be. Now is the time to worry, clear as can be. Bigfoot ran back to the scene of the crime, lifting the Christmas tree up above this time. About to make it crash down, a plan so grand, when through the front door entered Becky, as if planned. Becky stood strong, a mighty huff from his nose, surveying the scene, seeing a family in throes. His horns down, hooves scraping the ground. Bigfoot on rubble, making a growling sound. Then Bigfoot shouted, "Ah, not you! You're gross and strange!" Becky dashed forward, almost in range. Bigfoot, scared of the tiny little goat, had to act fast, go for the throat. With a clatter and thump, distraction with ease, Jane reached for the rifle. John's revenge, please. Becky formed thoughts as if a goat could think before he tears them limb from limb in this brink. Except maybe Timmy, he's far too slim. I'll hit him twice, somewhere in the shin. Quickly, tell Mother my master plan. Shouted Becky, thinking, stay away from my clan. Little Timmy piped up as Becky and Bigfoot neared.
Please, no. I'll do anything.
From the ash he steered, from the broken Christmas boxes, one untouched he found, dusty, silent, as peace spread around. Bigfoot stopped. A whimper caught his ear. Inside a box, something innocent taken for granted, he sneered. Bigfoot grabbed the box, and Becky knew opportunity to grant freedom to all in view. With a thud, horns hit behind the knee. A bang rang out, a shot aimed clear and true. Bigfoot buckled, left shoulder home to a bullet.
Get out of here.
Shouted Jane with might.
Leave us alone.
Echoed Timmy in fright. Shouted Becky, standing tall. And from under the rubble, John managed to call.
What they said.
Muttered John in a voice low. A family united, facing their Christmas foe. In the cold blizzard snow, Bigfoot limped away, filled with shame and dishonor, nowhere to stay. Under his arm, a gift box wrapped so nice. Atop a hill in a cave, his frozen fingers tried to open it twice. Then it licked his face and greeted with cheer. Christmas perhaps wasn't so austere. Alone and away from his home he might be, but now, with this puppy, he could recover peacefully. Someday he'd go back and maybe win, for Christmas lessons a beast can learn from within. Back home, police cars and fire trucks in season, little Timmy learned a lesson of reason. Appreciate Becky, the best goat of all. As for the parents thrown in, an unpredictable call, the end a tale of Christmas twist. A holiday lesson? Not really, but thanks for listening.
Hello everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Welcome to another episode of Christmas Clues. I am your host, Taylor, and I hope you're all having a wonderful, safe, and warm holiday season with friends and family, wherever you may be. I want to thank Reuben for that lovely festive storytelling that we threw in there at the start of this episode. Of course, as Cryptid Clues tradition goes, we have to indulge in a little Christmas spirit on the show, but of course, we have a little mysterious encounter content to close out our holiday episode as well. On that note, do you know the song It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year? It's by Andy Williams. It's a great Christmas song, released in 1963. Oddly enough, though, for the song, is it includes the following phrase. There'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. I'm kind of tone deaf on that, but basically in line with that phrase, who am I to question and ignore that Christmas tradition as stated in the song? So that's kind of going to be the theme here. But before we get into that, a couple of plugs. This past month, we released an episode on Bigfoot and the avoidance of human beings, another ChatGPT storytime prompt with Reuben. And before that, we played a little game of vocalizations to test Reuben's animal knowledge. That aside, you can find much more content in our podcast feeds and social media, including our new holiday-themed Yule log video on YouTube. It's 6 hours long of cryptid sounds, Christmas music, and just a burning fire, so I hope you enjoy it. That adieu. Now, I did a little bit of digging, and it appears that ghosts have been quite prominently Christmas-oriented, as I can't say as much as they would be Halloween, but still attached to Christmas nonetheless. Now, of course, we have A Christmas Carol. That is Exhibit A, a prime example. But that aside, it wasn't until maybe around the 20th century that it seems like ghosts really started to take a back seat to Christmas, more so in North America. While Europe still, I would say, prominently tackles some of these as traditions, including ghosts or incorporating ghosts into their holiday. One main contributor, though, to ghost stories was just the longer, darker winter nights. And on top of that, you have many pagan beliefs that are suggesting that during the winter solstice, the dead could more easily cross into the living world. So for today's episode, we're going to be starting off here with our first paranormal encounter of the night. Now, again, these are not Christmas-themed paranormal encounters. They are just paranormal encounters, just that, like the song says, scary ghost stories. And I quote, "Weird experiences in an old Italian home." So I want to preface this story by saying that I don't fully believe in ghosts. What I encountered was truly weird, and I can't really explain it to this day. I'm about 99% sure that what I experienced was paranormal. Also, that the happenings in this house only occurred for about 2 weeks until we had the house cleansed by someone. I'll explain that later. From 2019 to 2021, I served at Aviano Air Base in northern Italy in the United States Air Force. During my time there, I moved into a house with a close friend of mine from tech school and his wife. We moved into an old house in the small town of Gas. In this house is where I went from not believing ghosts exist at all to becoming almost positive that they do. I still don't fully believe because I don't think any of us truly have the answer for the weird shit that happens around us sometimes, and I won't claim to know exactly what it was that was going on in that house. The first week in the house was normal. After that first week had passed, I started having very intense nightmares every night. I do not remember what these nightmares were about, probably for the better. All I remember is waking up with sleep paralysis most of those nights, and that I do remember. Every time I have sleep paralysis, as soon as I realize what's happening, like clockwork, I get a quiet whooshing sound in my ears. It progressively gets louder until it's almost deafening loud. And on one occasion, I remember waking up in a cold sweat, not being able to move. The whooshing sound starts, and when it gets to the point of being fairly loud, I'm looking around the room, and at the foot of my bed, I see a dark figure raising up, and it started lifting my legs off the bed. It was at that point I snapped back to reality, most likely from adrenaline. Now, I know there wasn't actually a figure there lifting my feet. I was half asleep and dreaming that it was happening, but it felt so real that I was genuinely terrified. I had more sleep paralysis experiences like that in that house, but that one was really the only one worth mentioning. My roommates also complained of nightmares, but nowhere near as intense or as frequent as mine. During the night, when I would wake up after these nightmares, I would sometimes hear noises coming from downstairs. Now, my roommates, who also slept upstairs, heard them too sometimes. These noises consisted of what I think was cabinets opening and closing, as well as silverware and pots and pans being moved around. Although I'm not entirely sure, as I didn't dare get out of my room to investigate. I was already shitting my britches from the nightmares. My roommates were more experienced with paranormal happenings and how to deal with them. They went to a store and picked up some dried sage, as well as some sort of bead necklace for me that they said was for protection. Even though I was skeptical, I never took that damn necklace off, if I was in the house. When me and my roommates tried to burn the dried sage in the house, it would not light. It wouldn't even burn a little. No matter how long we held the fire to it, the weird part is when we took the sage outside and tried to burn it. Again, it immediately lit fire. We took it back inside and tried to burn it again, and the same thing happened. It wouldn't burn, no matter how hard we tried. Now, this could be due to humidity in the house or something. I'm not sure, but it really did creep us out a bit. The same night that we tried to burn the sage, me and my buddy woke up at the exact same time. We left our rooms and happened to meet in the hallway. We both wanted a midnight snack, and it was quiet in the house, but as soon as we got close to each other and greeted each other, the noises started. The same noises I described earlier. Me and my buddy both stopped in the hallway above the stairs and just listened for a minute, just trying to decipher exactly what we were hearing, when out of nowhere, and I really mean out of nowhere, because both of us were standing completely still just listening, the necklace they had bought me exploded. It broke with nothing touching it or catching it, and the beads scattered all over the floor. Me and my buddy just looked each other in the eyes, said goodnight, and went back to our rooms. The final straw was when my roommates had apparently seen the entity. I'm not sure if I believe them entirely, but this is what they said they saw. When they were eating in our kitchen one day, they were at the table, both facing the glass door that leads to the patio. From that door and the reflection of the glass, you can see into the door to the hallway that sits right behind the table where they were. They claimed to have both seen an old lady walk past that doorway. They told me that neither of them said a word to each other. They just looked at each other and quickly made their way upstairs to their room. I say this was the last straw because after that encounter, they called someone called a Picario, I think is what they said. I can't remember, but it was some sort of Mexican priest or witch doctor who informed them that we were in danger and that he would be performing a ritual to try and move the spirit from our house. I don't know what he did, but it worked, and I was just glad to finally get a good night's rest in. After he did what he did, there was nothing happening in the house after that. We were even able to burn the sage in the house afterwards. This was my only paranormal experience to this day, and I'm still not sure what to think of it. End quote. So, firstly, I just want to thank you for letting us share your experience on the show. Secondly, I personally have a lot of faith in the practice of house cleansing. You should never ignore those off putting vibes or feelings you get when you enter an area, a person's home. And my family has been put into situations where they have had to resort to such things, and it does work. Of course, it should be done properly if you're dealing with something a little bit more sinister. And I reckon, again, it depends on the specific force you're combating in most scenarios. However, I do think most cases can be just performed by oneself. Nothing too fancy. Get some sage, burn it, just kind of spread it around the home and just really refresh and renew. Because most people don't know the history of places. There could be violence and just negative power concentrating in this area. And that kind of stems into our next encounter that we're going to talk about, where it is just an area where we don't know much about the history of this building, but it definitely has some interesting things going on. And this encounter has an audio clip attached to it too that I'm going to play after I read it here. You'll understand how it fits into the story as I explain it. So without further ado, this will be taking place in a elementary school, and the report goes as follows. So, sometime last year, I worked as a janitor at an elementary school. I only worked there a few months, but I'll never forget the time I worked there. I worked the night shift, and I was the only person in the school at night. I went in at 3 p.m. and got off at 11:30 p.m., and from 3 to 6, when the teachers were still there, nothing was really out of the ordinary. But when they all left and I was alone, the whole school just took on a different atmosphere entirely. I never truly felt alone, and at all times throughout the night, I felt like someone was watching me. I mostly ignored it and tried to keep my mind occupied, listen to music and whatnot. One night, I was on break in the teacher's lounge when all of a sudden I could hear faint music playing somewhere. The break room was next to the parking lot, so I thought it could be coming from a car outside. But there were no cars in the parking lot. The walls were brick, so surely wouldn't be able to hear noises from outside through brick wall, right? It went away later that night, but it freaked me out a little. I've experienced disembodied singing and music playing before in my life, and this feeling had me similarly on edge. Another night, I was headed outside to another building of the school, and where the playground was at, I clearly saw one of the swings of the swing set violently swinging back and forth. I mean, this thing was moving with force behind it. And it wasn't windy that night, so I have no idea what else could have caused this, as there was no one around. Again, another night, I was going to another building outside, and I see this pitch black dog that was darker than night. I'm thinking it was just a dog. I called to it, but it walked off under some lights. It stopped and just stared at me for a few seconds and walked away. What was weird is even under the light, I could see no features of the dog, just a pitch black shadow. No eye glow, nothing. I have no idea if this encounter was paranormal per se or just some dog, but it didn't feel quite right and freaked me out enough that I took it as some sort of omen. So, I should mention that the school was divided into 3 separate buildings and some trailers outside that were used as classrooms. I hated going into the center building because that's where I felt most uneasy. So, I'm in the building, working my way down the hall, and I get to the kindergarten and preschool section. Now, this was around 7 p.m., and there was still a teacher there finishing up. So, I go to break at this time, and as I come back after break, she had left. But what's weird is I start to hear this noise coming from down the hall, from what sounds like from another classroom. Anyway, I ignore it for now, but I keep hearing, and as I'm getting closer to this room, it's becoming more and more noticeable. It sounds like what I can only describe as knocking. It just keeps going and it's random patterns. And as soon as I enter the room, it's another feeling of anxiety and unease and fear that comes over me as the knocking sound continues. My whole body just freezes in place, like I can't move at all. But I managed to pull out my phone and try and actually record it. But as I'm starting to record it, it stops for about 10 seconds and then it knocks again. But this time, it's 3 big knocks. So at this point, I feel physically sick to my stomach. I managed to leave the room. I was just so terrified of what I had just heard that I'm almost sprinting to leave the school and go home. But as I'm leaving, I feel as if whatever it was right on top of me. I mean, it's a heavy feeling on my back, and I swear I feel like something touches the back of my neck. I'll add that the knocks were very loud, as I could hear them from across the hall outside of the room, and also that the walls were solid brick, so whatever it was had to knock with power and force to make that much noise. So I go back home. I tell my sister, who is very sensitive to this sort of thing, so she makes me a protection jar to wear while I'm there at work. And I never encountered anything like that after that night. I still felt like whatever was there was constantly watching me at all times. Anyway, I quit the job soon after, but I will never forget the experience I had there. I don't know for sure if it was paranormal, but I believe there was definitely something there that didn't want me there. Because that school was so weird just in general. The whole place, the kids, the teachers, it all just felt off. End quote. So here I'm going to insert the audio clip for you that was mentioned inside this encounter. So if you're tuning into the YouTube version, there will be the actual video there so you can actually see the wall. But if you're just doing audio, take my word for it. The sounds that are protruding from this wall, it doesn't make sense. It is solid brick. So it just makes me wonder what is really going on here, because it does sound almost like a heated vent or a pipe or something that's just, it's got some years behind it and it's just making those bump noises, whatnot. Totally plausible, but again, solid brick wall, cement, it's peculiar. It really, really is. And the fact that it just chose to do 3 knocks when the recording started, which I find that very peculiar as well. If something was here and it was maybe a little bit more negative towards him, yeah, it's very peculiar, very peculiar. But then we also can look at the fact that this is a elementary school, and after a little bit of follow-up conversation, he was not able to provide a specific date, but he says probably the past 1930s to 1970s. It's just a small county elementary school. They did follow up though with saying that it's a rough area. Shootings aren't uncommon, and it's just an all-around area that could easily attract negative energies. And it's very unfortunate that an elementary school has to be subject to close proximity of shootings, but that is absolutely something that could cause an angered spirit to reside in a location. And I feel like if you're dealing with an old school from the 1930s, oh, who knows what this building could have been used for back then. It could have been converted from an asylum to a hall, now off to a school. Like there's an unending list of possibilities, but I digress. I'm rambling there. It's very, very mysterious, and it's very, very freaky just being alone in a situation like this. And I think if you can identify that you're alone, but still identify, hey, there are some very unsavory things occurring, then I think you're on the right track. So you don't have that person that can necessarily reaffirm what you're going through, because all these teachers seem to leave right when the action starts. So it kind of puts him in the solo predicament. But that being said, that is it for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, you can reach us directly at CryptidClues@gmail.com, our social media channels, X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and we also have a website, CryptidClues.ca. Now, to close us out for the year, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into the show. It's been a great year. I'm pretty sure this is our 3rd year doing this show now, and it's just been a fun time. We've been growing consistently. I'm checking the stats, and the stats show growth. So thank you so much to all of you fine folks out there that are tuning into the podcast, listening and showing your support, chatting it up with us. We really appreciate it. We love what we do. We love being able to just have this platform to share stories and discussions and just try and find and learn something new about this just ever expanding mystery. So we're excited to go into the new year with you guys. We're excited to just present a bunch of new content, more interviews and more topics and more cryptids to discuss. So until next time, everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. Bye.